Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, another game, another blown lead. The Sens lose 7-4 to the Colorado Avalanche on home ice.
And the Ottawa Senators obviously need to change something. Could moving Jakob Chychrun be the answer?
I don't want to, but could it be inevitable? We'll have that conversation coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 961 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, and Pilsy, we're recording a little bit later. It's just after 5 p.m., and what a day on social media, and the rumor mill is churning.
Yeah, I mean, after a loss like that, that's going to kind of add fuel to the rumor mill or the fires that are going around about the Ottawa Senators, most particularly Steve Staios calling around. Apparently, he's among the most active GMs in the league right now, and when your team is performing like this, you would hope Steve Staios is active, whether it's just listening in or trying to make some deals himself. But unfortunately, Ross, this team, the way it's structured and set up, we thought was going to have a lot more success than this, but it just hasn't worked. And you can't even put last year injuries were the crutch. DJ Smith as the coach, general manager that's been here too long, goalie coach, like all of those things have been addressed. So at what point are you knocking down dominoes before those dominoes start to hit the players pile and you start to see some movement for the actual players on the ice that aren't getting it done?
The spin zone on that too is what's the grace period between to see if a change works? Because right now, 4 wins in 13 games under Jacques Martin. You're not getting the new coach bump. That's out of the question. What I do appreciate is Jacques Martin's honesty after the game. This guy is coaching with a guy. We always joke like they're coaching for their job. It's like, no, he's coaching out of the passion of it. And of course, you're getting paid handsomely, I'm sure, as an NHL head coach. But also, he's coaching for pride right now. He's coaching to get this group of individuals together as a team. And again, last night, they have 3 separate leads, and they can't get it done. The stat that it just blows my mind, and last night was another L when they score first. When this team gets a 1-0 lead, when they're gifted. You know, it's like when you race somebody younger than you, it's like, hey, you get a 5-second head start. It's that equivalent when you score first in a game. They're 12-12 when they score first. Coin flip when they get a 1-goal lead. That is so peculiar, and you can bet I'm going to FanDuel when they score first next game and betting the other team. That's how sad and pathetic it's come this year in Ottawa. They've lost more games than they've won when leading going into the third period since 2024. These are just unacceptable errors that are piling up against the Ottawa Senators. And last night was just another example of it where they let a good team get hot. And I always compare, and now I can really do this because Winnipeg's coming into Ottawa on the weekend. Winnipeg's gone 33 straight games without allowing more than 3 goals. Ottawa allowed 4 goals in the third period against Colorado.
Yeah. And to even tack on more to that, Ross, they allowed 5 unanswered goals. I mean, heck, you could call it 6 unanswered goals if that one doesn't get called back for offside. So this is a team that they have the opportunities. And Brady mentioned in his post game, like really the time where the Sens should have had the most success was that third period. You're going up against a team that's on the second half of a back-to-back. The Sens were not on that second half of a back-to-back. The Avs are their top dogs, played big minutes the night before. Now they're into the third period after 40 minutes of play. This Colorado Avalanche team should be down and out, and the Ottawa Senators should be able to put the pedal to the metal and step on their throats here with the 4-3 lead going into the third period. And they completely collapse, and the Colorado Avalanche get an abundance of role players, guys scoring their first NHL goals that are able to carry their team to victory after being behind with 20 minutes left to go for the Avs. So, like, the Ottawa Senators are being gifted so many opportunities. And, Ross, not only do they let those opportunities slip away, it's almost like Sideshow Bob and the Simpsons stepping on the rakes. Like they don't have to step on those rakes, but they're stepping on them and smacking themselves in the face. Like, it's just, this team is losing more games than their opponents are winning against them. And it's that consistency of losing that's going to lead to turmoil and going to lead to tension in the locker room, which we're seeing that happen.
We're seeing that happen, and it's pretty obvious. Like, when's the last time you saw any buddy-buddy bromance type relationship between Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk? That was the most consistent thing the Senators team had for a number of years, was the joking. And maybe that's not always what you want, joking around, but the good vibes that you could really relate to and see on the ice. When's the last time you saw that between the two best players on the team?
Not at all. And Ross, like, even like those guys don't play together at all anymore. It seems like a long time since they've been put on the same line here. And like, even like, look at Brady and Josh Norris. Like, what was the tagline when they acquired Josh Norris? He's Brady's best friend. And it doesn't seem like there's that camaraderie between Brady and some of the guys or anybody on this team. Like, does it seem like any of these guys are more than work acquaintances at this point? Not really.
No, and you got to be a family to get through the toughest times together. And right now, it's just tough times. Like the record, and I stopped tweeting it out because it actually like is depressing. But the Senators, since coming back from the back-to-back wins over in Sweden, stop me if you've heard that before, a different time in franchise history. And I get it. It's somewhat of a coincidence. I have to believe that's true. But they have 7 wins in 24 games. That's
what was the record last time?
Last time what?
Last return from Sweden.
Oh, it wasn't that good. It was worse than that.
Which is hard to believe.
It was worse than that, which is hard to believe. But it was the case, and the Senators are still recovering from that. And I know there's different reasons for each time. And yeah, you can make whatever arguments you feel like you need to do. They were 3-13-3 in the 19 games following it. And then obviously it even got worse. I'm trying to pull up the same number. They've played 24 games. So what is that? 24. I've got it right here. Pilsy, they were 16. They were 6-14-4 because they got loser points back then. This team is the only one in the National Hockey League that does not have a loser point this year. They've only been to overtime 3 times. They've got a shootout win and 2 overtime wins. I'm so confused by this hockey team.
Yeah.
They make no sense, but I think defensively is where it has to start because they are scoring goals. In the last few games, they're scoring goals. They've scored 3 or more goals in 4 straight games, and they have 1 win to show for it. And it took 4 seconds left against the worst team in the league to get that done. Defensively, they're just not good enough. They've allowed more than 4 goals, 4 or more, in 4 straight games. They haven't allowed less than 3 goals in a game, Pilsy, since New Year's Eve against Buffalo.
Yeah, true. And
they are a complete mess defensively. This is going on 7 games now. They're 1-6 in their last 7 in the year 2024, and they've allowed 35 goals. They have a -15 goal differential in their last 7 games.
Yeah,
and they've had the lead in multiple of the losses.
The start of 2024 has not been kind to the Ottawa Senators, but Ross, you mentioned it. Scoring goals is not this team's issue. They're 9th. in goals per game. You want to know the team they're tied with that has the exact same goals per game as them, Ross?
I don't know why I'm going to say Seattle.
Your Winnipeg Jets, 3.3 goals for per game.
What's the goals against for both teams?
There we go. I was hoping you would ask. The goals against per game, Ottawa is the second worst in the league. Only the San Jose Sharks allow more goals per game. 3.98 for the Sharks, 3.77 for the Sens. And the Winnipeg Jets are the best team when it comes to goals against per game, only allowing 2.28. So the duality of that, like, how can you be so good at scoring goals, yet so bad at letting them in? Because it's that old mantra, Ross, like, sometimes a good offense is the best defense. Like, if you're putting the puck in the back of the net that often, that should be allowing you to stop other teams from then coming back and scoring on you. I mean, I know I'm not an analytics guy, but just simple logic there. Like, you would think that you'd be able to at least bridge that gap a little bit closer, and the Ottawa Senators are not able to do it. Now, whether shaking up the decor results in better goaltending, or maybe vice versa, getting better goaltending will help the decor look better, I'm not sure. It's a kind of the chicken and the egg situation there, but overall, the fact of the matter is this team is not good enough defensively, so they brought in the defensive guru in Jacques Martin, and even he is sitting here being like, I don't know what more we can do here. It comes down to the players, and we have to see a shift in the players at this point. I already mentioned it. GM gone, coach gone, goaltending coach gone. You've made switches, and it's not working here, or at least not yet.
It's not working at all. So is it time to embrace the tank? I'm so depressed that I even have to say that. Is it time to embrace the tank? That conversation's coming up, as well as the future of Jakob Chychrun. I've been on the record of saying that it would be a massive mistake to trade him, but could it be the only option? We'll have that conversation coming up. This is Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. Guys, if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our top choice for all daily fantasy sports. Obviously, when it comes to daily fantasy hockey, we're going to Sleeper. And you should too, because with Sleeper, I'll say it again, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. What I love about the Sleeper app is the group chat. You can talk smack to your friends, let them know you got a good week coming up, and entries can be made in less than 1 minute. Time is money, so you can get those entries in as quick and as close up to puck drop as possible. With studs all around the league, all you need to do is pick your stars for stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Sens fans. 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions applied. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Only available for our friends in the U.S. for now.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You can visit the GLEBE Central Pub right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. And when you do, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. I love the GLEBE Central Pub for the great food. I'm a big wings guy myself personally. The hot and honey's my go-to. I know Pilsy loves the buffalo chicken wraps. You can always get great food at the GLEBE Central Pub. They've always got the games on. I love how they're taking the PWHL into their arms. As a member of the Glebe community, right where Lansdowne is, it makes so much sense, and they love hockey. They love Ottawa. They are all in on the PWHL. So you can go watch the PWHL Ottawa games down there. If you're going to Lansdowne, there's a game tonight. I know we're recording a little later, but for the next home game, check out Glebe Central Pub on the way to or from. You can also check out the Sens Shuttle. The Glebe Central Pub Shuttle, just for $17, gets you round trip to and from the CTC. You can go to their website, GlebeCentralPub.com. All the information is available to you there. The bus will run tomorrow. Senators hosting the Habs. Get your tickets at the Glebe Central Pub website, GlebeCentralPub.com. The vibes are free at the GCP. Go visit them at 779 Bank Street, right in the heart of the Glebe, and check out the Sens Shuttle. $17, GLEBECentralPub.com. All right, Pilsy. It's a conversation I don't want to have. I don't want to have it. As we're nearing the trade deadline, still a couple, I shouldn't say months because we're less than 2 months away, but how long until the trade deadline? We are at March 8th is the date. And the Senators are actually going to be in California during this span. We're 51 days away. And I'm curious if we could see another hallway type trade at the deadline. We know the teams that were interested in Jakob Chychrun before he became an Ottawa Senator. The Edmonton Oilers, but they went out and got Matthias Ekholm. The LA Kings, they went out and got Vladislav Gavrikov. There's teams that have moved on from the Jakob Chychrun sweepstake. So who's left? But should the Senators even consider trading their 25-year-old left shot defenseman who has the rest of this year and next year at $4.6 million? I said it would be a big mistake, Pilsy, but I'm at the point now with the things that we're hearing that I wouldn't be surprised if it's what happens.
Well, the first question that needs to be answered for this, Ross, is, and I'm sure Steve Sayos is in contact with Jakob Chychrun's agent, is how's Chychrun feeling about extending here? Because you need to get a sense, does he believe in what's going on in Ottawa? Does he want to stay in Ottawa? What kind of contract would he be looking for, et cetera, et cetera? So you gotta feel out if the possibility of Chychrun extending is in fact a reality. Now, if it's not a reality and Staios is getting the sense, hey, Chychrun's not going to want to sign, or Chychrun's not going to want to sign a deal that works for us, we're not going to be able to negotiate a proper extension, then you have to move on from him, and you have to do it soon, because you don't want to get stuck in having to trade him next year at just a rental price. You can, as Ottawa Senators fans know, you can fetch a better return if you've got a little bit extra on that contract. So if teams could have him for this playoff run and another year at a very affordable $4.5 million, that's obviously a lot more enticing. That's going to increase the return there. But Ross, I mean, we can't keep looking at these deals that the Sens have made, kind of big splashes that only last a few years, and then, or not even a few years, 1 year, and you get pennies on the dollar in the return. Like the DeBrincat return is looking like an absolute garbage return here. Like, sure, you got the first rounder, but it seems
first rounder.
That's the thing. Yeah, Boston's first rounder, so it's like going to be a late one.
We're probably, because Boston would have to lose in the first 2 rounds, and then it would still, like, it's probably going to be mid to late 20s.
Yeah, definitely. And then you're looking at what you got otherwise. I mean, Sabrango, that's a guy, he's bouncing between the ECHL and the AHL, probably not a big future there. A 4th round pick, and then Kubalik, from the sounds of it, I think the Sens are just going to end up doing the Tatar deal, moving Kubalik for a 4th or 5th, strictly just to get him off the books here. So
more goals than Tim Stützle this year, for the record.
Yeah, but
that's how I'd sell him to other teams. He got more goals than Tim Stützle.
So that's what you're looking at in the DeBrincat trade. So for the Chychrun trade, they traded 1st and 2 seconds to acquire him. What are, like, do we even think they can get that return for Jakob Chychrun at this point?
I don't know, but Steve Staios,
and especially, sorry, Ross, just to add one more thing, you have to emphasize the first rounder that the Sens gave up was a 7th overall pick.
No, 12.
Or 12th, sorry, that I'm thinking of DeBrincat.
You're getting your top, you're getting your lottery picks that Ottawa just decided to give up. Man, all I got to say, and again, we always go to battle for the people that came on this show, but Pierre Dorian's resume is getting worse by the day. By the day. Not by the week or month or year, as most general managers are graded on. But we love the big splashes, obviously big names. They jump out. Our best ever reaction episode was the ones where they get Alex DeBrincat. When they get Jakob Chychrun, we get so excited. These big names are coming. They're going to help. But at this point, I would rather the less splashy moves where they make a difference. For example, Thomas Tatar goes to Seattle. The line he's playing on, I was looking at it today. They've been together now. I forget who he's playing with, but it doesn't matter. They've been on the ice together for over 100 minutes, and they have not conceded a goal against. Like, there's players where it's more substance than flash, but the problem is Jakob Chychrun has had offensive flash and flair, but maybe that's the thing. The substance, though, it's just like when he's been with Jake Sanderson, the underlying numbers are really good. When he's been playing with Thomas Chabot, those two guys have allowed more goals per 60 minutes on ice together than any other pair in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
And then you look at it from a standpoint, and look, I get it that there's some luck that goes into it, but also I'll tell you, Jakob Chychrun's second most defensive zone giveaways in the NHL so far this season. Only John Carlson from the Washington Capitals has more, and I can't think of it. How many games more have other teams played than Chychrun? But look at this. Goals against per 60 minutes. Minimum 90 minutes time on ice, because I didn't want the little small sample size to get in the way. Goals against per 60 minutes on the ice pairings. The three lowest on the Ottawa Senators, Jakob Chychrun's on all three pairs.
Yeah.
And Thomas Chabot, 5.54 goals against per 60. Chychrun and JBD, 3.52. Chychrun Hamonic, 3. Then the flip side, Chychrun and Sanderson are 2.29, second best. So I don't know if it's he's not being in a position to succeed, and the likes on Jakob Chychrun's dad's Twitter would tell you that maybe he doesn't feel like he's being utilized. He liked he's the only like on this tweet too, which means he like searched it up or it was sent to him, where it's like, I hope the next coach utilizes Chychrun and Stützle better. So it's like, okay, there's a bit of malcontent there, must be in the family, as it's back-to-back tweets that he liked. And look, people can like whatever they want. I do find it kind of funny and curious, and you can make your own assumptions. That, by the way, is not the thesis of this. There's other not reports, but there's other things we're hearing. I don't feel comfortable reporting it. I don't feel comfortable saying it, but I will say I wouldn't be surprised if they're true. And they'll come out in due time, or we'll be able to discuss. I don't want to be first on this. I want to be right type thing. You're right. And we're just making assumptions, which is the key here. We're not trying to be Darren Dreger. We never are. We're fans of the team. And when we hear things that are being said around town, then whether it's people in the restaurant industry or Ottawa's a small town, people talk. And I don't like what I'm hearing in terms of his desire to stay.
Well, I mean, you don't even have to have sources, Ross. Just use your eyeballs and look at the body language. The body language for Jakob Chychrun has shifted big time since when he first got here to where it is now. Now, obviously, losing is a part of that. Losing, it wears on you, especially when it's being done like this. But the thing is, Ross, like when you're looking at when they acquired DeBrincat and Chychrun, they obviously didn't see or maybe miscalculated how those guys were going to fit into this team and this franchise and this locker room. Because DeBrincat, they weren't able to find the right spot for him. DeBrincat said as much on his way out that, hey, I didn't want to be stuck behind Brady, and it seemed like I was always going to be stuck behind Brady. And now we're seeing it almost looks like Jakob Chychrun is kind of saying the same thing. We can assume he would want to play with Jake Sanderson, and he's not getting that opportunity. So you start looking at the guys that are being brought in to support the core, just plain aren't working, and they're failing so bad that they're not even lasting more than 1 year to see if they can figure it out. That's an issue upon itself. But at that point, you have to start asking the questions. Is it the guys being brought in to help that are the issue? Or is it the guys that are here that need help?
That's a question that needs to be answered. And a coach needs to be hired full-time to decide the direction of the players on the ice. Sure, there's a direction up top, and we're still waiting for Steve Staios to make his first personnel move on ice since taking over as GM and president of hockey operations. What's it going to be? That's for you to decide. But please let us know in the comments who the Sens should target. We've had that conversation throughout. But if you're trading Jakob Chychrun to LA, are you willing to sweeten the pot so much that you can get a legit return? Or are you just taking for what the market dictates Jakob Chychrun is worth? Sens fans, the most delusional in the NHL, we're definitely a part of that. Like, I'm already envisioning Brandt Clarke as an Ottawa Senator. It's not going to happen. It's not. They missed out on him by 2 picks in the 2021 draft because they went and won worthless games down the stretch. Worthless, meaningless. And say what you want about the Wallstead part of that conversation. There was a top 9 that was so far separated to everyone else in that draft. And Brandt Clarke went 9th overall. Now he's got 32 points in 30 games as a 20-year-old defenseman in the AHL. But plenty of rumors swirling around the team. I would just detonate the decor as it is right now. I would find shelter for Jake Sanderson. And anyone else, if there's a player to be had that you think could, I don't even want to say fit, because I want you to break the mold. Blow up the mold. And have guys come in who play on the right side of the puck and don't back into their own crease, because that's something we noticed a lot recently, that guys are backing up, and you can't give elite shooters, whether it's Tage Thompson or whether it's someone else, Cale Makar, to just scoot in and get right to the net. You can't allow that. Just can't do it. So we'll have more on, is it time to embrace the tank? And tomorrow they're playing Montreal for the first time. And I'll tell you why those two things are connected next. This is Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. This game up against the Montreal Canadiens, the Canadiens can just drive over to Ottawa, but if they're making that drive, even though it's a short one, you want to make sure your car or bus or truck or whatever you drive is good to go. Passion, strive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it keeps your ride or die alive. That's why eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. They got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need, at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to our U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
All right, Pilsy. It is a Wednesday, the day before the Senators host the Montreal Canadiens for the first time this season. Wild. It's mid-January, and the Sens and Habs have not faced off yet, and now they've got twice in an upcoming week. But between now and then, the Senators will take on the Jets on Saturday afternoon, the Flyers on Sunday afternoon. That game's circled. Shane Pinto, most likely to return. I say most, 99%, but I mean, he needs a contract, and he doesn't have one right now. Then the following Tuesday at Bell Center, Montreal, Quebec. And then they got the Boston Bruins, New York Rangers, Nashville Predators, Detroit Red Wings, all before the NHL All-Star break, which is 2 weeks away. So I think they're making up a few of their games in hand right here, and they've got a tough schedule coming up. We will have all the previews, recaps that you need right here, Locked On Senators, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube, because the postcast is appointment viewing, and we might start calling it the Ventcast because there's not a whole lot of wins, and we like to have the chat active. Everybody's in the mix, and it's a great way to blow off steam after the Ottawa Senators find new ways to lose. Pilsy, the game tomorrow against Montreal, must win. It's a must-win game tomorrow.
All right, we got a must-win game for a 30th place team. Let's go. I mean, look, it sounds sad, but I'm with you, Ross. Like these are games like you just need to put stop gaps in the losing, and this is an opportunity to do that. The Montreal Canadiens, although they've been scrappy and they've been better than I think their roster should have been. That's a roster that's outperforming themselves. The Senators are a roster that's underperforming, but they also have a lot of injuries. You're at home. The Montreal Canadiens are playing tonight, Ross. So they also, similar to Colorado, they will be on the second half of a back-to-back. This game is on a tee for the Ottawa Senators to smack out. We'll get into it more tomorrow, but this is just yet another opportunity for the Ottawa Senators to take the low-hanging fruit and run with it.
Any feelings that Tim Stützle might have, whether it's a riff with a teammate, whether it's a just frustration of not being able to score as much as he has, I want him to take it all out on Brendan Gallagher tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just have a full reset. Just a full reset. Remember when that was the biggest one of our concern was Brendan Gallagher? Now I don't even care about the opponent. It's all about internally what the heck is going on and should we embrace the tank? The Chicago Blackhawks game got postponed tonight. There's some wild weather going on in the States right now. If the Chicago Blackhawks had won tonight's game, they would have been tied with the Ottawa Senators in points. The actively tanking, enormously injured Chicago Blackhawks would have been tied with the Ottawa Senators. The Sens have the 4th lowest points percentage in the National Hockey League, and I know they have a few games in hand. Pillsy, they're dead last in their division by 12 points, double digits. Like, however bad you think the Sens are doing in terms of league-wide, they're doing way worse.
Yeah, like Ross, I used to take some comfort in looking at the standings being like, oh crap, the Sens are way down there. You know what? I'll mix it up. I'll put points percentage in. That bounces you up a couple spots. It does. I think points percentage now, if I'm looking at it, only bumps them up, they're 30th. So if you do points percentage, it gives them one boost. Yeah, you go from 30th to 29th. Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's atrocious. It's unacceptable. And I can't fathom how we got to this point. Maybe we overhype things, and that's fine. This is a Sens fan base that's been starving. We've been starving. We thought this was going to be a big year. So maybe we set the bar too high. But my God, wherever you set the bar, the Sens have fallen well short of that.
Well short of it. So are you at the point where if you are, what does embracing the tank mean to you?
Well, Ross, as two guys that have been covering the Ottawa Senators on a daily process since 2019, we've been embracing the tank. And we didn't have a problem embracing the tank when it felt like the right thing to do, or at least the right time to do it. But unfortunately, now we've gone full circle. Like there was a small window last year when the Sens beat the Red Wings in those back-to-back games where you thought, okay, they're breaking this rebuild cycle, and that lasted 2 weeks maybe.
We want playoff chance. We're 1 week later, March 3rd or March. It was Chychrun's first home game. So 51 games ago, because I'm on Chychrun's page, he's played 51 games for Ottawa. So 50 games ago exactly, because game 1 was at Madison Square Garden, Brass's 1,000th game. The vibes were so good.
Yeah, and Ross, we got those Who Wants It t-shirts. They were sweet. That was such a good moment. I think I've worn that t-shirt once. I've been using it as a dish rag because I can't bring myself to wear it or look at it because it's just painful to be like, we thought we were building something and now we're back here. To answer your question, though, embracing the tank is looking at losses and picking little things that you can shine some light on for the future. Unfortunately, Ross, all these future things are locked up assets. So being like, oh, Timmy had a good game up against the Sharks. Well, he better have a good game up against the Sharks. This guy just signed the biggest contract in Ottawa Senators history. So it's not like we're looking at that and being like, he can build on that to progress or go more. Like, it's all there. It's all laid out now. So even finding small victories in losses seems unbearable now. Like we don't have those things we can hold on to look forward, because that was already supposed to be happening. Like doing that should be in the rearview mirror right now, but it's not. And I don't know if I've got it in me to embrace another tank, Ross, without having the release of enjoying at least making it to the playoffs once and then starting over. Like we haven't even had that release of that emotion, and we have to embrace the tank now because it was turning around. Free agents were signing in Ottawa. That wasn't happening before. So you're able to bring in guys at just their cap hits, no assets moved or lost. Guys were signing big ticket deals. They're signing full extensions on their contracts. That was an issue before, but now you're trading for guys, and the second they have an opportunity to say, "Yeah, I don't want to stay here," they're exercising that option, or at least it seems that way with Jakob Chychrun now. So, like, how are you gonna retain anyone? And you can't solely draft and develop and build this team, because the core of this team is still young and they need veteran help also. So, like, drafting and developing guys just to draft and develop them and bring them up into this losing culture. I mean, perfect example, Mads Søgaard. That's a goalie you're looking to say, hey, Jacques said it. Korpisalo's numbers haven't been good. We're hoping the kid can give us a spark. You didn't get the spark. But you can't put that all on Mads. You can't put the guys you're drafting and developing, you can't expect them to be the saviors of the guys that are supposed to already be there. So that's the issue this team is going to have. And Ross, I'm so damn nervous that we're going to get stuck in this cycle.
I think that one high pick, but it's not only the high pick. I'm excited for the draft. I always am. I'm a sucker for the draft. Okay. That's just who I am. And we might have to go to Vegas end of June. I think that might be in the cards for us. No pun intended. But when you look at the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames, those are the two teams I think are most similar. One, Calgary, probably more so with Ottawa. Their players that, like, Tkachuk asked to leave. Hopefully the only Tkachuk in Canada that asked to leave. But at the same time, because I did like a stat scour this morning. It's on Twitter at Sens Central. And like he leads the Sens in every category. So say what you want about him not being at his best, but he leads the Sens in almost every single category imaginable. The fancy stats, you name it. Brady Tkachuk is the leader of this team, but they need more veterans. So that's where I look at Vancouver as the blueprint, where they blew up their decor and they got guys in. Carson Soucy in, Philip Hronek in. Obviously, they had the one stud. They have Quinn Hughes. Hopefully, Jake Sanderson's that one stud that you build around. They brought in Ian Cole. They brought in all these different guys who are defensive defensemen. As our friend Mark Mathot would say, they put out fires. That's what Ottawa needs. And they need probably a little more speed up front, would be something I would like to see in the bottom six, especially. And I would also like to see a team that has veteran presence, but not they don't have to be the Stanley Cup champions. I don't need another Claude Giroux as much as I'd love one. A Sam Lafferty. Look how great he's playing in Vancouver this year. Those types of players make a difference when you're going down the stretch. And that's where the Sens have to be smart with their next picks. They need to get guys who you can get for cheap, under $2.5 million, and they can make a difference. But one guy who the Sens hope to make a difference, 2 games until we get to see him in the third game, and that's Shane Pinto. So we'll have more going into the weekend on Shane Pinto, the expectations for him, what we think he can bring. But man, do they need him bad?
But I'm not even sure Shane Pinto's going to solve.
No, but he's a defensive-minded forward. He's a guy who can help track back and help, because the Sens are getting burned in their own zone. So that's in terms of what I need. I think the biggest problem is the defensive core right now. Say what you want about the goalies, and I mean, Bruce Garrock's going way too far with it. Disgraceful, unacceptable. All the words he's using are a little over the top for me. I think the goalies are the sum of what we're seeing in the defensive structure, not only in the defensive structure D zone, but off the rush. They're giving up so much space. It's like, it's brutal. And then the mental fragility of always giving up goals right after they score.
Yeah,
it's like
happened twice last game.
It's clockwork. It's 31 times this season, which the top teams, Columbus is one of them. And this is from a few days ago. John Perlberg with TSN sent us the stats, and he did it after the Buffalo game. So maybe by Thursday, because it's another TSN game. Hopefully he'll have that for us. They're 7th or 6th in the league of most goals given up within 5 minutes. And I bet you if you did it with the next 2 minutes, it would be even more, because that's where they're really, really getting burned. It was 40 seconds after the Sens opened the scoring, like that. These things need to be cleaned up. And then the Senators, like, they still have talent, man. They're still finding ways to score the last few games, but yeah, we'll see how they look against Montreal. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
God bless Sens fans. We're going through the ringer. We've been through the ringer, and now, like Ross, I thought we would have used the buzzword playoffs and wild card more than the buzzwords, if you're watching on YouTube on the right here, loss and tank. But here we are.
Here we are. I'll leave you with this bit of positivity.
Oh,
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's what we're
It's
relying
always
on.
darkest before the dawn.
That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. We'll have a great game day preview for you tomorrow. Senators hosting the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to record right around the morning skate, so expect that in your feeds by 1 p.m. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.